Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo.
There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the 5 of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do?
I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault. A new series streaming now only on Peacock.
Every who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Hey, where you been? Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis. Ohio State is officially done with the preseason of the preseason. It's like the pre-preseason. 42-9 win over Rutgers. Rutgers tried to go for 2, which was like I don't know. Greg Schiano. You know what? Let's start there. A lot of respect for what Greg Schiano did today.
Yep.
He approached this game the way you should approach this game. If you know you're going to get your butt whipped by almost 40 points, go hard or go home.
Yeah. I like the 4th down calls that they had. I guess the 2-point conversion was like to technically make it a 24-point game, which is a 3-possession game. So I guess like I at least understand what he was thinking. So props to him. The early 4th down when they went for it after the Bo Jackson fumble, like thumbs up from me.
I don't think it was about this game, Gillis. I mean, they have a rivalry game to play next week too. Well, I guess Rutgers and Penn State are rivals, but they have a pretty big game to play next week too. Right, but it's like I think both of these teams today use this game to like tinker and work on things, but in different ways. One did it understanding that they were going to win this game by however much they wanted to win this game by. The other one did it understanding that they're not going to win this game and they're going to lose it by however much they lose it by. So why not work on your 2-point conversions? Because sure, it doesn't matter against Ohio State, but it might matter 7 days from now, right?
Yeah. You mentioned it, like Rutgers came out, and I think there was some good work given to Ohio State by Rutgers because of that, right? Like, I mean, we pointed this out pretty immediately. Ohio State put 6 on the field on defense, freshman cornerback Devin Sanchez, and Rutgers went right at him, and they threw the ball deep. I think on that first drive, they went deep. And Lorenzo Styles went down, and Bryce West comes into the game, and the first play was like a slot fade to Bryce West. Like, for as much as we could talk about the tinkering of this all, I do think there was some value to be gleaned from what happened today for Ohio State in the way of Rutgers showed up and they didn't kind of just play dead and just pretend that the game was, over in the first 2 minutes. And they're like, oh, let's just try to cover the spread and leave. They did some stuff. They tried some things. It didn't work. But they tried to, like, Devin Sanchez got some work. Bryce West got some work. They couldn't really run the ball at all. I thought for what it was, Rutgers, they did enough to where Ohio State couldn't just show up, yawn, and win 56.
You're right. They could show up, yawn, and win 42-9.
Yeah, exactly. But that good look. What you're misunderstanding is good for you, Rutgers. You scored 9.
Yeah. On the second team. So much so that we didn't even see it because we were on an elevator.
They still scored 9. That Rutgers is going home going, who cares if we scored against the first team, the second team, or the prep team? We scored 9.
Scored more than Texas scored.
More than Texas. As much as the mighty
Ohio.
Ohio.
You got more than Texas. Stefan, what'd you take away from this game? Biggest takeaway?
It's over and we can start talking about the Michigan game.
It's over is a good way to put it.
What do we think of the Lincoln Keenholz situation? Was this just like the most we were going to... Do you think we see it again? At all?
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it. I think this was kind of the perfect game to really go full force with it and see what you can put on Lincoln Kienholz's plate, and also put some things on film to make other teams think about. I would not be surprised in a short yardage situation or a goal line situation if we saw Lincoln Kienholz. Do I think we'll see it on like a 4th and 1? Probably not. Do I think we could see it on like a 2nd and 1? Where if it doesn't work, you don't get the first down, you still have 2 downs to work with, and you're in a fine spot. I think Ohio State probably walks out of this game saying, we can do some things with the Kienholz package, but we have to be intelligent about when we do it. And I think that's fine. Like, there were some, social media frustrations. Our texters were frustrated at times with things they did with Lincoln Kienholz. I don't think we're going to see to that effect it being used moving forward. I just think this was a game to kind of work with it, see what you got, what works, what doesn't work. Maybe even give Lincoln Kienholz an opportunity to put some things on film if he pursues the transfer portal and things of that nature. So I don't think it's done, but I think they're going to be very strategic with how they utilize the Kienholz package. I think today, like the pass where they got bailed out by the roughing the passer, I think that was on a 4th and 2. Like I don't anticipate that happening with the Kienholz package. But I think the Purdue game, I think it was like a 2nd down, maybe even a 1st down when they brought him in and he scored the touchdown. Like that's probably when we see it used. And I'm not like I know, like, I had even made the joke on social media that, like, Julian Sand is this team's best passer. Like, let him be the one to throw the ball. If it's 2nd and 1 and Kienholz does something, like, he was put in a spot where he can't throw the ball away. So he ends up putting the ball in danger. Like, if it's 2nd and 1, you say, hey, if there's nothing there, just throw it away and it's fine. Like, I think that's okay. I just think you have to be smart about when you do it. And I trust Ohio State's coaches have to know when to pick and choose its spots for that.
So go ahead, Steve.
Just like, sure, but at the same time, it was. I mean, the read was there. It's a sprint out to his left, which is already a difficult throw, right?
Yeah.
You're running away from your arm essentially, right? So you're running against the momentum of how you're gonna need to throw this ball, and so, but there's 3 reads, right? And I think he just chose the most difficult read, because the first read is. Obviously, I can't remember who's in the game right now because it happened. I'll probably bring up this play on the rewatch pod for Monday just because it's an important play, because they can run this with Julian Sand, and they've ran this before in the past where there's 3 guys out on the route and they're all sprinting, obviously, to the left side. One of them, Jelani Thurman, is just like wide open, but he's the last guy in the read, and
I think Nate Roberts might have been the first read on the play.
Yeah, I think that's what, because it's 3 tight ends, and they've done this with receivers in the past, so they're already starting out spread. Because it was 3 tight ends, they start out tight, they spread it out, and then they snap the ball and then go into the sprint out. Nate Roberts is the first read. I think it's Max Clare who ends up getting the target there in that situation, but like Jelani Thurman's wide open. He just never got to that progression in the read, Lincoln Kienholz, and he's going to watch this film on Sunday or Monday whenever they sit down and watch this film and go, oh, the water's 2 feet. Just stand up. Jelani Thurman standing there waving at me. Just throw him the football. And so it's fine.
Yeah, well,
there wasn't a way to throw the ball away, but if he just like goes through his reads instead of panicking, then he sees Jelani Thurman's wide open.
But
the reason I'm asking about
if it's a 2nd down, though, like he's going through his reads and he doesn't get the Jelani, he can just throw it away, right? I think he felt the need to force it there.
Yeah, but regardless, it doesn't change the concept of he's going to get to the film room on Sunday and go, oh, Jelani Thurman was wide open. I can't believe I missed that there. I guess, like, we don't have to spend that much time on Lincoln Kienholz. He's not going to be the starting quarterback next game. It's more about, like, are there things that happened in this game that matter for 7 days from now in any capacity?
Yeah, like, I think that was a good segue, because, like, no, I don't think, to go back to the Kienholz thing for just a quick second, like, no, I would not do that. Like, put that where they put the Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones in the back of the warehouse and just bury it back there. Like, hey, there's a time for Lincoln Kienholz to play. And you know when that is? When you're up by a lot. And I'm not taking maybe a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback off the field to throw the ball. And the reason I bring that up, because, like, I wrote about this post game, and I think we can talk about this a little bit more. Like, where you look at that and kind of extrapolate it is, okay, Ohio State tried a lot in the first 11 games of the regular season. Like, it's more like they tried the Kienholz package. I think Doug Lesmerises called it the presidential package, I think. Like, they tried that. They did the Keenholz thing. They ran some plays out of it with him. They threw out of it with him. They used a lot of tight ends. Like they used a lot of running backs. Like there are lessons that I think we can take from the first 11 games, not just today, of just they're gonna try a lot, but I think there was some kind of, you know what? I think we're good on this. Like I think the Keenholz package, I think we're good on it. I think we saw today the right guard rotation probably has to continue. Right? Yeah, I think Tegra was fine. I want to go back and rewatch that. I thought Tegra was okay. They put Gabe Van Sickle in the game. I think it was his first series, and he did not look good at all. It was pretty bad. He had 2 back-to-back plays where some dude just crossed his face, and he didn't pick him up. Like, there are things that we saw from Ohio State that you look at the first 11 games, such as the Keenholz package, where you're like, man, you're doing a little too much here. There are things that you saw in the first 11 games where you're like, man, I really wish they had an answer for this at right guard. And frankly, you're just not going to get it. Like if you wanted somebody to seize that right guard job, whether it was Tegra or Gabe Van Sickle or Josh Padilla or Ethan Nyanwa, it's just not going to happen. They put Nyanwa in for one play at one point in the game at left guard because Luke Montgomery's helmet came off and he immediately committed a holding foul. Like, I think that is kind of the lesson that I took from today was of all of the stuff that they had happened to them and they had happened to them and they were able to force on other teams. There are some things that you're going to be able to use moving forward and against Michigan and into the playoff and maybe a Big Ten championship game. And there are some things you just got to scrap. And I think the Keenholz package is one thing you got to scrap. I think the right guard conversation is something that you probably got to keep going with that rotation. I think the receiver play mattered because what Stephen was pointed out every couple of plays. Hey, Julian Saint hasn't thrown to a receiver yet. Julian Saint hasn't completed a pass to a receiver yet. It's all tight ends or it's all Brandon Innes. Like that matters. It was a mixed bag today, I think. Things that matter and things that don't. You just kind of have to figure out which ones are important and which ones they need to kind of keep following moving forward.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah. What matters? Like, what is actually important for, like, because they're done now. The season is over. They are in postseason mode. Like, what they did for 11 weeks was how to dominate your opponent for 11 weeks without ever actually having to put it all together, and how to treat 3 months of college football like fall camp. That's what they did for 11 straight games. And now we're going to see the finished product over the next 5 to 6 games of the year, depending on what they do. So what about what we saw against Rutgers, which is the punctuation of a 3-month-long preseason actually matters in terms of the bigger picture of can this team win a national championship? What did we learn?
I think we were reminded, maybe more so than learned, that the 2 best receivers on this team matter a lot to this team. And I think in that same vein, we learned that when this team is at full strength, we're not going to see a ton of rotation at receiver because those 2 guys are significantly better than the backups, not just because they're great, but also there is maybe a sense of, I don't know, worry, concern, whatever word you want to use. There's just a lack of, there's a gap between what you have at the top and what you have behind them. And I think this game probably emphasized that a little bit. And on top of that, when those 2 guys are playing, I think Ohio State now has a running game that can complement them and be a weapon and something that teams have to respect that they did not have probably like, I think the Illinois game was like October 18th or something like that. So mid-October, we had some real questions about the run game because that was probably a low point in a facet of their game that had not particularly been great to that point. And they have figured it out since then. And I'm not saying that the 36 times they ran against Rutgers is what the game plan needs to be against Michigan. I'm just saying that the run game is good enough to where Michigan, Indiana, Georgia, Alabama, they have to at least defend the threat of it. And presenting yourself as balanced is just as good as being balanced sometimes, right? Because you can throw it 50 times in a game. If on 35 of those throws, the defense was worried that you might run it, then you've got an advantage. You've got an edge. So I think we walk away saying we understand why Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith are so good and why we don't see a ton of rotation at receiver. We understand that this running game is improved, and that extends beyond just the running backs. I thought you mentioned Tegra. I thought Tegra played pretty well, right? We've seen the inconsistencies. I thought this was an okay game for Tegra. I thought Luke Montgomery did a good job blocking in a run game. Philip Daniels did a good job blocking in a run game. I thought Max Clare, Will Kasmerick, Bennett Christian, those guys did a good job blocking in a run game. Like, when Ohio State's offense is healthy, it is potent at its strongest spot, the passing game with its receivers, but it also is very effective and being balanced and adding another dimension to this offense. I think defensively, I think we saw Matt Patricia reach into his bag a little bit more. We saw Caleb Downs get the sack. We saw them being pretty aggressive with their linebackers. I would have to look at the snap counts. I don't think we saw early on the amount of rotation defensively that we saw maybe against Purdue and UCLA. I think I had said this on the game preview pod where it just felt like Ohio State went through a stretch between like the Illinois game and now this Rutgers game. So probably against Wisconsin, Penn State, UCLA, and Purdue, where they didn't really feel like they had to show a lot defensively. Like, I think they felt like they could be in some kind of a base and be pretty vanilla and be good on defense. And all that, those tricks that we saw that put Arch Manning in hell and that had, Parker Navarro overthinking this and that had Luke Altmaier overthinking things. I feel like they reached into some of that again against Rutgers. And I wonder, I don't know if it was so much so that they felt like they needed to do it against Rutgers. I felt like it was maybe like okay, hey, let's put some more stuff back on Arvell's plate, back on Caleb Downs' plate, just so they can kind of get like a, hey, wake up, like it's Michigan time. Like, hey, wake up, let's put some more things on film. It's Michigan time. Like hey, it's no longer preseason. Here's you know how like NFL teams like it's not like this anymore. But when they used to play 4 preseason games, the third preseason game was like hey, we're gonna see the starters. Rehearsal. Like here we go. It kind of felt like this is what the Rutgers game was. Like hey, you're not playing 70 snaps, but like this is the game where we kind of get you ready for the season. And it kind of felt like that defensively. So I don't know. I just named like 3 or 4 different parts that mattered, but I think it mattered. I think there were like, there's a lot in this game where I'm going to roll my eyes and say like, okay, we probably won't see that again. But I think there are a lot of things where you point to and you say like, this is at least important because what they've been building, some of it looked really good against Rutgers. And I think you feel like you're in a pretty good spot going into Michigan game. As long as mentally you're where you need to be, X's and O's wise, you're in a pretty good spot.
Can I say, so before we started this podcast, Stefan and I were like, I don't know if we're going to rewatch this game. We're just going to look ahead to Michigan. I think I lied. I think we should rewatch the defense of this game because, and I think I'm realizing it right now as we're talking this out. I think the offense showed a lot of nothing. I think the defense showed a lot of everything. I think that Michigan is about to sit down and when they turn on the Rutgers film with an 18-year-old at quarterback who Oklahoma got after, I don't think this was on it because you are right. They have not blitzed a ton this year. They sent some against Texas. Oh, wait, first time starting quarterback and it's the most hostile environment he's ever played in. They sent a few against Illinois. They didn't blitz Damon Williams because, like, why would you blitz Damon Williams and said you want to cage him in there? I think they would have blitzed Drew Aller had he not gotten hurt and Penn State was still Penn State. I'm not saying that he's going to turn into a blitzing machine against Michigan, right? But I think we saw a little bit of an idea of the Michigan approach and, more importantly, the playoff approach for Ohio State. But to your point, Steph, they have not had to do any of that. They have been able to be, we're going to cage in guys. We're going to let Kenyatta and Caden do the pass rush moves. Every so often, we'll bring Sonny or Arvell off the edge, and they'll get involved with the sacks too. Remember how we were talking about this defense after the Texas game and all the exotic stuff, all the NFL stuff they were doing? How much have we seen that since the Texas game? Not a lot.
I would probably say since the Illinois game. I think they had some of it against Illinois.
Okay. Yeah. So the 2 times they've played, a quarterback, I would say Ethan Kaliakmanis counts as a time they play a quarterback. I thought he was pretty good. He wasn't perfect. He definitely overthrew some guys. There were also some times where guys dropped some balls. But it's Rutgers, right? But I think Kaliakmanis is a quality mid-level Big Ten quarterback. And they have enough quality weapons that Matt Patricia could cook up a little bit this week, right? He didn't have to just stay vanilla the whole week. They sent Caleb Downs on a blitz right up the middle, and he got his first full sack of his career. Why are you showing that this week unless you know who's going to sit down and watch this film and be preparing for it? Mm-hmm. And so I almost want us to rewatch the defense a little bit. It's not going to be the other thing we do. We're going to do some big picture stuff on Saturday too, but I do think we should spend at least 20 to 30 minutes talking about Matt Patricia kind of sending a warning shot at Michigan about what they're going to deal with next Saturday.
I saw Patricia.
Yeah, Gillis, what else?
Real quick, I was going to say when the game finished and we were down on the sideline and teams are shaking hands and stuff like that, I looked over at Ohio State's sideline and Patricia was, dapping up and hugging Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. And I think it was more of like, hey, this is like your guys' last home game type of like dap up. But I think it was also kind of like a, hey, you guys are about to turn it up, Arvell and Sonny. So I'm dapping you up to let you know, like, it's go time.
I told Arvell on the field, like, we just passed by each other. And I was like, take it all in, man. It's your last time. He laughed. He didn't want to acknowledge it, but he knows. He knows.
Yeah. So this ties into the defense a little bit. And I want to give Stephen maybe the runway because, like, I thought we were talking about this after the game, and I think it's a fun kind of like toe the line of how you talk about it. And because he had a good point, like, if you guys have ever seen Coach Carter, there's a point of the movie where he's like yelling at the team and he's giving like a pep talk during the game.
Yelling at the team.
That's a fair that's a fair point. It's Samuel Jackson. Yeah, fair. But there's a point where he was like, every time we step on the court, we are pedal to the metal. We control the tempo of the game. We make them play Richmond Oiler ball. And I think I use that quote to say, like, it's correct to say, like, what, like, during our postgame video, which I would recommend everybody go check out as well. It's on YouTube. Like, one of the things that I said was Ohio State can beat teams in a couple of different ways. Stefan wrote about this, I think, after the game, where if Ohio State goes out there and thinks to themselves, we need to score 20, we get to 20, we win. Because that's the type of game this is going to be. Hell, we get 17, we might win, right? If Ohio State had scored 14 points last year, they would have beaten Michigan. And whether it's one of those games against Michigan or Indiana or whoever, Ohio State can win that type of game. Whether it's a game where Ohio State says, we need 30. We got to hit 30 this week. It ain't clicking defensively. We need 30. Now, the defense, as you guys were talking about, has been good enough to where you can rely on them in those moments, right? But Stephen was kind of pointing out, like, this is the point where Ohio State can start to dictate terms in a different way. Like, Ohio State all year has kind of been, we're going to play slower. We're not going to go full throttle right from the get-go. We're going to take our time with it. We're going to keep guys healthy. We're going to, like, we've all seen it. We've all watched it. We've all heard it. We've all gotten annoyed by it. It's fine. That might be over. And I think for Michigan, it probably should be over. But I do think Ohio State has that in its bag to where if they go to Michigan and they say, we got to crank it up, we're going to turn it to 11 and we're just going to go pedal to the metal. Maybe they look at Indiana and those coaches get together and they say, it's better for us to play the way that we did in the first couple of weeks of the year, the first part of the regular season of just, we are going to wrap them up like an anaconda and strangle them and just take their life slowly from them. And I thought Stephen had the good point of, you can't walk out there specifically against Michigan and say, well, Michigan wants to win this way, so let's just try to win that way. You have to dictate the way that you play the game, and I think Ohio State can do that. And that's one of the big lessons that I think we've learned is that Ohio State dictated the way that teams have played for the first 11 games. But now they're going to have to dictate the way that Michigan plays, likely, in a whole other way, and that's certainly what fans want.
Last thing before we take a break. Did y'all know this was Max, like the second most amount of yards Max Claire's ever had in a football game in college? It's 7 catches on 8 targets for 105 yards and a touchdown. His career high is 6 catches for 133. Illinois last year.
That was Purdue's one competitive game.
Yeah. So this is the second time he's been over 100 and the third time he's been over 90. He had 7 for 91 against Penn State last year. He also had a game where he was 7 for 83 last year. In fact, the most he'd had in a game this year before Saturday's game was Minnesota. He was 5 for 63. So, like, they got him involved. And it wasn't like they were drawing up stuff for him and dialing up stuff for him. And he handled it pretty well outside of trying to hurdle, which he said, I don't even know what I was thinking there. I just jumped.
Pressed Y on it.
Yeah, don't do that again. David Adolph, walk-on wide receiver, 2 catches for 23 yards, and he played 48 snaps. Brandon Ennis, starting slot receiver, 2 catches for 10 yards and a touchdown on 4 targets, and he played 53 snaps. He also got one of those targets came from Lincoln Kinos, where Lincoln threw it behind him, and he ended up getting pile driven into the ground on the shoulder that he was already heavily iced up on last week. Not a good look. Not great. Jelani Thurman had a 19-yard catch that I thought was a pretty quality play at the end of the game. Bo Jackson, 1 catch for 14 yards. Bennett Christian, 1 catch for 5 yards. And those are the people who had a catch on Saturday. So 2 wide receivers, and one of them is I understand everybody's technically on scholarship now because 105, but like he didn't come here on scholarship. He came here as a walk-on. In a world where Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate didn't play, this was an opportunity for Mylan Graham, who I don't think played his first snap until sometime in the middle of the third quarter. Bryson Rogers.
In the second half when Ennis came out, I think. When he was grabbing
Bryson Rogers, who started the game but was kind of just out there for a lot of the game. And then Quincy Porter, who was, again, on the availability report, so he didn't play. And then Phillip Bell, who I believe has played in 3 games already. So this was probably going to be his last game if he played in the regular season because he's not going to play against Michigan. Because then after that, you get to the postseason, it doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't count against your red shirt. So he had 1 game left to play while still holding on to his red shirt. Obviously, the most obvious, Captain Obvious thing to say is like, oh, Ohio State needs Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate to win. But it's not great that they've had the opportunities they've had to show some depth, and there was no, like, there's 1 scholarship wide receiver who had a catch, and he had 2 catches for 10 yards.
I kind of forget the press conference. Did he say why Mylan didn't play until the third quarter?
He got asked why he didn't play, and his answer was like, he said they've been challenging him to step up and practice. Like, his answer, that's not verbatim what his answer. I don't have his answer in front of me.
He used the word consistency like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, so it wasn't like there wasn't anything wrong. He's just not playing well enough.
Yeah. A little bit concerning, I think, to say the least. It's probably more of a next season thing, but it's also like, I don't know, man. Like, we're pretty confident that, like, it sounds like JJ could be back for the Michigan game, but we don't actually exactly know where Carnell's status is on things. And someone in that receiver room is going to have to step up. And, like, frankly, it feels like David Adolph is the one that's stepping up. And
here's the quote.
And that's a little bit concerning, I would think.
Yeah. Here's a quote. He played a little bit. And just when he gets in there, we want him to be consistent and do his job. And we're challenging him to do that and step up in a big way. The more he does that, the more he builds trust, the more opportunities he'll get. So in other words, you play better, we'll play you more. Like, that's not a injury thing or it was senior day, so the senior walk-on's going to play a bunch of football for us. No, they trust. Because this wasn't just this week. David Adolph has been out there in some key run game situations for them in past weeks, too. Remember when he was talking about one of the run plays from the Purdue game and he mentioned David? And we were all like, who are you talking about? Oh, David Adolph. They trust David Adolph more than they do Mylan Graham. And the reason, and I don't want to just pick on Mylan Graham because it's not just Mylan Graham. It's the depth at wide receiver in past years has lived under the description of, I would be a starter everywhere else but here. And the only reason I'm not a starter here is because there's a first-round draft pick in front of me, and I'm waiting my turn. That was what Marvin Harrison was in Emeka Egbuka in 2021. That's what Jackson Smith-Njigba was in 2020. That's what Carnell Tate was in 2023. And then JJ just straight up jumped the line and said, I don't care who's in the room. This is my X receiver spot for the next 3 years. That is the expectation we have for Chris Henry and Caden Dixon-Wyatt, is that they are going to be in that situation. That is the expectation we have for Jameer Brown when he gets here, is that you could play and start at 80% of the other Big Ten schools. If DeCorian Moore was in this room right now, he would probably fit that description. After today, I no longer think the 2024 everyone fits that description.
Yeah. And a lot of it's probably a 2026 conversation, but like, this is not us saying sell your stock on Mylan Graham. Like, he can develop and get a ton of work this offseason and be an awesome, maybe even starting receiver for Ohio State next year. I don't think that's what we're saying.
Ooh.
But I think you thought that his development would be further along to this point where if Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are out, he's ahead of David Adolph on the depth chart. And he's not there right now. And that's not something we expected, I guess is the best way to say it. It's not concerning, but it's not something we expect.
Gillis said it perfectly when we were sitting up in the press box. His stock didn't drop. You don't want to sell it right now because you didn't gain any money from when you bought it, but you just thought it would be a little bit more expensive by now.
You're holding, because I think like I'll go to this. If I had told you guys August, whatever, September even, whatever, hey, Jeremiah, Carnell are out for a game. Brandon Ennis banged up, because it looked like this has happened twice now where Ennis had to cut. They didn't have to stop the game, but Ennis came out. And he was like grabbing his shoulder, and I think that happened last week against UCLA too. So Like, the receiver room is not 100% right now. And I get that, nobody's 100% right now, but like the receiver room is really not 100% right now. If I had told you that in August, September, after your, oh God, kind of first thought, you're putting Mylan Graham in that next group, you would have projected that next group probably looks something like Bryson Rogers, Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter. You probably would have thought that was the next three. And, why this matters is like, they've got injuries right now in the receiver room. And hypothetically, one of those guys can't go. One of the big two can't go next week in Ann Arbor. You're probably going to see a lot of 2 tight end package, truthfully. But if you need a receiver package where you have 3 receivers out on the field, you could have made a dang good case that a couple of months ago, you probably would have just said, oh, it's probably going to be Mylan, second-year guy, former 5-star. He'll be that guy. Right now, I don't think that's the case. Like, it's Bryson Rogers, maybe Quincy Porter if he's healthy, or David Adolph. That is right now your 4th receiver.
Speaking of which, I guess Chris Henry, Modern Day lost Friday night.
That is correct. They lost on a last-second missed field goal. Okay,
because Chris Henry just put out a tweet saying that I hate that this is how my high school career ended. It was almost like I love this place. Bye, guys. I'm moving to Columbus type of tweet. I don't know. I just thought we would get a little bit more from that room. And I don't think we got it out of that room. The trust doesn't seem to be there like it has been in past years. And I get it. That room has reached an unrealistic and unattainable standard that even the development is development, right? But it's just the development of that room has been on such a fast track that now that somebody's maybe on a more normal timeline, it stands out like a sore thumb a little bit more. But, listen, Ryan Day said it. He went on Big Ten Network this week and said, you're coming here to be a first-round draft pick. And in that room, that is like absurdly factual. Every single person he has spit out into that room so far has been a first-round draft pick. So, that's like what we're doing here. Like, if you finish your career as a Buckeye, if Brian Hartline offered you, you have gone to the NFL and heard your name in the first round. And we think that continues this year with Carnell Tate. And we think that continues next year with Jeremiah Smith. So when that's the standard, and it's also a standard that has continuously been met, that's what you're up against. That's what you're fighting. And so you got to bring it. That's all I got. Let's take a break, and then we'll shift ahead here on Buckeye Talk.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes. Now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox. Clean feels good.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Black Friday Game Day on Prime is an epic day of live sports. It all starts at 9 a.m. Eastern with the Capital One Skins game. Then, Black Friday football returns when the Bears take on the Eagles at 3 p.m. And it culminates with the final night of Emirates NBA Cup Group play with Bucks Knicks at 7 p.m. and Mavs Lakers at 10 p.m. Black Friday Game Day, only on Prime.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis. To make this very, very quick, if you had to dumb down what the first 11 weeks were for Ohio State into one word, what would it be?
Probably say, whoa. And the reason I would say that is because we came into this saying there's a lot that's going to take time, like Julian Saban, for example. We had said, by Michigan week, he's going to be really good. But what does he look like going into Washington or going into Illinois we'll see, right? Those are going to be his first real road tests. With this defense, like we were all really high on Arvell Reese, but it was like, okay, let's see what happens. Let time, Jalen McClain. Okay, and at that point, we weren't even sure if it was going to be Malik Hartford, maybe even starting, right? Like, let's see over time what this looks like. And I think within like 2 or 3 weeks, and the Texas game to open the season obviously helps. I think within 2 or 3 weeks, we were telling ourselves like, whoa, like Julian Saint's Heisman caliber, Arvell Reese is first round pick caliber, Carnell Tate is first round pick caliber. Like some of the stuff that we thought was maybe going to take time and maybe we were going to have to project. Because even Carnell Tate, we knew he was really good, but like, okay, let's see how the season pans out. Can he become a first round pick? Like, can he be to that standard? Very quickly, we were like, whoa, this team can play a conservative, hey, Julian saying make no mistakes type of way and win by 18 at Washington and win by 20 at Illinois and cruise past, a Penn State team that's not as good as we projected. But like, so much of it was like, all right, we're coming into the season. Let's see how it goes. And very quickly, it was like, whoa, this year's team is better than last year's because they're just as talented, if not more talented. And it's all happening right away. Julian saying, we were saying early in the season, like, he wasn't getting a ton of Heisman buzz, right? He wasn't being talked about, but like, I think those of us who cover the beat full time, we're telling ourselves like, the way he's playing, like he's going to get to November and be part of the Heisman conversation. And here we are. Like it was just, so I think that was just my reaction to so much of it. It's like, whoa, Arvell Reese, like it's instant, right? Game 1 against Texas. This guy looks like a first round pick. Jalen McClain, whoa, this dude's delivering hits. He's looking like Lathan Ransom, wasted no time doing it. Obviously, we knew it with Jeremiah and stuff like that, but like game 3 against Ohio, we're sitting there being like, whoa, Bo Jackson's the best running back on this team. And maybe some of that was a result of James Peoples not necessarily projecting right away or panning out right away to what we projected, but also it was about Bo Jackson breaking 70-yard runs against Ohio, a good team in the MAC. Mm-hmm. Like, so much of this has kind of happened, I think, faster than we thought. So when we were telling ourselves, by the time you get to Michigan, by the time you get to the Big Ten championship game in the playoff, this team is going to be clicking because there's so many guys who are going to have had starts under their belt. I don't know, man. I walked away from week 2 or week 3 being like, this team is really good already, and there seems to be a gap between them and everybody else. So that is a credit to offseason development. That is a credit to development over the past couple of years for guys like Arvell, Jalen McClain, Jermaine Matthews, Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Caden McDonald, Edric Houston, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Will Kazmarek. I could go on in the entire offensive line. I can go on and on and on. All those guys that we said, damn, by the time they get to December, they might be really good. It was August 31st, and we were like, whoa, these guys are really good. So I think whoa was my reaction because everything happened so quick that we got through 11 games, and the back end of those 11 games was like, all right, rest up, tweak some things, work on some things, get ready for the season. Instead of, I think if we had this conversation in March, we would say, hey, that Purdue game is going to be really important because guys are going to be kind of rounding into form. Instead, it was like, yeah, Arvell Reese is in form, rest up, Riley Pettijohn, get some reps, we'll get to Michigan. Like, it all happened so fast. This team became undoubtedly the best team in the country so fast. That doesn't mean they're going to win a national championship, right? Football happens. But I think there would be no debate right now that they are the best team in the country. And it happened in a blink of an eye, see me.
Pick a word, Gillis, any word. One.
Enlightenment. Feels like there was a point of last year where it was definitely a rockier first 11 games prior to the Michigan game. Even, they lost to Oregon. Not only was there a loss in there, but it was kind of the process of just like, oh man, like they didn't even look that good against Nebraska. Like there was not a Nebraska game. There was not a moment for Ohio State this year of like, they should be putting this team out to the woodshed and they're not. And I think about this with the way it happened with the defense of just, yes, welcome to the other side, brother. You can have a 3-down front with a walk-up linebacker like Arvell Reese. You can figure out a defensive scheme that is more versatile and, as Nick Saban would say, not antiquated. You can do all of those things, and you can figure that out. And I think Ohio State figured that out. I think Ohio State learned a lot about the way that their defense needed to be played. And I thought that was really important. So I thought that the defensive scheme was definitely enlightened, and they grew to have a greater understanding of what the defensive purpose needed to be. Offensively, I think it was kind of the same thing, but it was more of a I don't want to say build the plane as you're flying it, but it felt like they were figuring things out as the year went along. Like the defense, we left that Texas game like, holy crap, is this the best defense in college football? Like, it's probably a little bit too early. Let's back off of that. But it was there. Like, we had that thought of like, holy smokes. They had Arch Manning, who, again, there was definitely a high level of expectation for. But Steve Sarkisian's a good offensive play caller, and they had both of them in prison. And those guys were in trouble. So the offense, they very clearly needed to figure out who was going to play at running back. It took them a couple of weeks when Bo Jackson really started to get going. And he started, breaking off some runs against Ohio. And I think Illinois was maybe the first time you really saw him kind of take those reins. You saw that. Okay. You figured out maybe a little bit more about your receiver room, because maybe that's the reason why they've been playing so many tight ends. It's just, it felt like this whole year, not saying other teams don't learn things, but it felt like Ohio State learned a lot about itself. And it felt like Ohio State kind of learned a lot of different things, what to do, what not to do. For example, you probably learned that your running back room is just the two best guys in it are probably true freshmen. You learned that the Lincoln Keenholz package probably isn't something you should throw out of. Like, there was a lot of, hey, this is good. And there was a lot of, ouch, I just touched a burning stove. I can't do that again. And I think Ohio State learned a lot. And that's why I go with enlightened. I think they had an enlightened approach to a lot of this regular season in a couple of different ways.
Teaser. I was going to pick a different word, but I actually want to be mature about it. Teaser is going to be my word. The word was going to be troll job, but it's not. It's not troll job. It's teaser. I think that Ohio State did what it was necessary for 11 weeks to win the football game, because that is still the most important thing, is to win the football game, do what needs to be done to win the football game, but also actively develop its roster. I think they chose the perfect way to develop a young quarterback. They brought him along slowly. They picked their moments, let him loose when it was time to, pulled him back when it was time to, and slowly and surely created the best possible version of Julian Sand heading into week 12. And because of the elements around him, it never had to divert from that plan. I think the defense did what was necessary every week to win the football game without ever showing its hand. Special teams was an adventure. Right, but I mean, special teams has been an adventure every year. But I think the offense and defense, with all the youth, perfectly towed the line of winning football games while developing football players. And I was thinking about this on the drive home, and it was based off of, I don't even remember where the tweet came from, but they were like, Ohio State's out here practicing. How good is the Big Ten really if Ohio State can literally do this every Saturday? But instead of looking at it from that perspective, I went, how good is Ohio State if it can essentially have a glorified scrimmage every Saturday? Like, how good are they really? Because think about this. I have Oregon and USC on my screen right now. With about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. But Oregon's going to end up winning this football game. But this was they won it 42-27. This was a good football game. This was a healthy back and forth football game, right? Alabama's been in some fights. Texas A&M was down significantly to South Carolina and had to use a perfect third quarter to come back and win that football game. Indiana was in a scare against Penn State on the road and needed a game-winning drive. And people are like holding that against Julian Sand, that he doesn't have the moment. Okay, because they're kicking everybody's butt. It's kind of hard to get a game-winning drive when you're never in a position where you have to have a game-winning drive. Right? It's being discounted against them, but I'm thinking about that. Ohio State is so good that they have had to maneuver things, right? I'm seeing people who are watching the broadcast and they're talking about, I guess, and Stefan, I guess we'll talk about some of this on Monday. Joel Klatt's going to have a moment during the halftime when we're looking at each other and go, okay, maybe they try a screen passes to see if they can pop something. And Gillis, you were like, oh, inside zone. But regardless, they're going to run a play where it's like, okay, if it breaks for an explosive, then we'll get aggressive. And if not, we're going to go into halftime. But also, we wouldn't be shocked if they just kneel it and they're happy being up 14-3, knowing they're getting the ball coming out of halftime. And apparently, like, Joe Klatt's like, why didn't you call a timeout? that whole time. It's like, why do I need to? Why do I need to manufacture a 2-minute drill? But we've also seen against Purdue, they did manufacture a 2-minute drill because Ryan Day wanted to see if Julian Sand could run it. He tried to do it against Penn State. It's just C.J. Donaldson fumbled the ball, so it ruined that moment. But did him fumbling the ball against Penn State, did you at all think in that game, oh no, C.J. Donaldson just fumbled? Penn State's going to make this a game? They might lose. Ohio State might lose this? No. Bo Jackson fumbled a football against Rutgers on Saturday, and it's the reason they were up 14-3 into the 21-3. Like, it wasn't, oh, he fumbled a football, and so now it's 7-10, right? Like, how many times did a quarter in and you thought Ohio State was in danger over the last 2.5 months?
Never.
I mean, Texas was, I think, 0 at the end of the first, and then 7-0 at halftime, and then 7-0 at the end of the third. So it's like, maybe, but they controlled the game.
Right.
So it's not on the scoreboard, yes. With my eyes, no.
Well, I didn't ask what the scoreboard said. How many times did you feel Ohio State was in danger?
Yeah, I mean, so, like, with that parameter, they kind of controlled everything that they did all year.
How many other teams in the country can you say that about?
None.
Well, also, every week we have come on a post-game pod and nitpick something and acknowledge they are not perfect, but their flaws have never put them in danger because they are that much better than everybody. We have been, if I had to describe the last 3 games of the season, so Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers, Purdue was like a student appreciation day scrimmage where it's like, hey, here's JJ. UCLA was like a behind closed door scrimmage. I felt like the Rutgers game was the spring game. Bryce West is randomly just playing nickel for you the rest of the game with the ones. Every other snap, like it felt like every 7 plays you saw Lincoln Keenholz on Saturday. But you're that much better than everybody else that you can do this stuff. And so the reason my word is teaser is I feel like we've seen bits and pieces of what Ohio State is when it's at full capacity, like the full Death Star of what it is, right? We've seen the downfield passing attack. The last 2 weeks, I think we've seen the run game start to hit a little bit more, right? The defense has been the defense all year. I mean, they've scored a kickoff. They've had a kick return for a touchdown. We've seen another play where Brandon Ennis caught a punt and then threw it to the other sideline to Lorenzo Styles where he turned it into an explosive play. Granted, we also saw that same exact thing today, and Brandon Ennis was inaccurate with the throw, and so they ended up starting a drive from the 5-yard line. It's like, why did you need to start the drive from the 5-yard line? Why does it matter? We went down and scored a touchdown anyway. So who cares that we started a drive from the 5-yard line? My word is teaser because I feel like Ohio State has been teasing me for 11 weeks. And now next Saturday, they stop teasing. And we get the full Ohio State experience at the right time. Because you guys are both right. They've developed these guys, and guys are starting to peak at the right times, right? This is what they are in terms of the personnel that they're going to be using, right? Yes, Tegra Shabola is going to be the starting right guard, and it looks like Gabe Van Sickle is going to be rotating in. Today, Van Sickle played 13 snaps, and Tegra Shabola played 51. I think that's a moving target every week what that breakdown is going to be, because also Tegra Shabola was out there for longer drives than Gabe Van Sickle was. Just like last weekend, Gabe Van Sickle had drives that were like 10 plays long. So you start to stack those things up. The tight ends, they think they got 5 tight ends they can play. Running backs, they think they have 4 running backs they think they can play, and they're going to play all of them. Defensively, their base is Lorenzo Styles at nickel, Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain are your safeties, Davison Igbinosun and Jermaine Matthews are your outside guys. They have a nickel package where Lorenzo Styles and Jermaine Matthews are inside. They bring Devin Sanchez into the game, and he's going to play outside corner with Davison Igbinosun. Apparently now they have Bryce West, who they can use as an option too when they go base. And there's nothing wrong with that. When they need a 3-linebacker look, they're going to go Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Peyton Pierce. Then they have a bunch of different fronts. They can go 5-man front. They can go 3-man front. They can go Edric Houston as the only defensive tackle, and then you got Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry on the outside, and you bring down Arvell Reese, and he can come off the edge. They have another front where it's Caden McDonald, Arvell Reese, and Kenyatta Jackson. They have a front where it's Caden McDonald, Edric Houston. They have a front as defensive tackles with Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry on the outside. They can bring in Tywan Malone, and he can be a part of that front. They have a look where they'll bring down and show a blitz with Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, and you have no idea which ones are blitzing and which ones are dropping in coverage, right? They have all these different things they can do. So you are right, Gillis. 11 games of showing us who they're going to be playing in the most important games. and what that could look like on a given snap. You are also right, Stefan. All these guys got good way quicker than we thought they were going to get good. And because they got because they got good quicker than we thought they were going to get good, it meant Gillis, they were able to figure out what they were earlier than we thought they were going to figure out what they were. By the end of September, I think they knew what they were. And they knew what they also needed to improve at. And then they spent too much improving on that. So now what does it look like when all those things happen in the same game? I guess we'll find out in 7 days. 1-4-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99. After that, Ohio State 11-0. This is what, like part 4 of the season at this point? This is like actually the only part that really mattered after they got through the Texas game, apparently, because Penn State ended up not being very, very good. So we're here now. Michigan week is upon us. We got a lot of fun stuff. We got the live show on Wednesday. We got day on Tuesday. They're not doing what they used to do in the past where we get everybody on one day. They're sticking to their routine. Ryan Day wants to keep things as routine as possible. So Tuesday we'll be in the Woody talking with Ryan Day. Wednesday we'll get players. I'm sure it'll probably just be the 4 captains. We'll also have our live show Wednesday at 11 a.m. on YouTube. Come join us for that. Stefan and I on the Monday pod. And Tuesday, I think we're going to do well, no, there is no Tuesday pod because it's just going to be Ryan Day for the Wednesday pod. And then the game preview pod Thursday for Friday. And well, actually, the game preview pod will be the live show on Wednesday, and that will just be in your feeds for Thursday and Friday. And then Friday, we're off to Ann Arbor for the game next weekend. End game is here. Let's see if Ohio State can end the losing streak in the game. For Stefan Krajisnik and Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means. Talk to you guys later. Okay.